So yesterday we saw a Mishnah on Daf Tesvav Amid Aleph that went ahead and covered the whole Perek of Perek Sheni. It was a Mishnah, the whole combination of Mishnah is describing what happened on the set of the seventh Hanesim. So we're going to go through it each now. But so we mentioned they took the Teva into the street, the Aron Kodesh into the street. They put Afer on themselves. They put Afer on the someone put it on the Reish Bez, they put it on the Teva. Someone put it on the Reish Bezdin, someone put it on the Av Bezdin, and then each person put it on themselves. And then we're going to see they put on Sak, and they went to the Beis HaKfaris, and they said they added 6 brachas, and each bracha had its own chasima. So we're going to see today, Be'ez Hashem. It's a very, very repetitious stuff in a way, but we'll see what we can do with it. Says the Gemara. We're up to Tes Vav Amid Beis, where I think we're the second, a few lines from the bottom, or be above that. Barosh Nasi. Okay, Barosh Nasi. Then it says afterwards, everyone. Nice same Baroshai. It's mash, but first they began with the Nasi, and then they began with the regular people. So the Chashva people they began first, and the regular people they began last. Iva Tanya, Rabbi Oimet, Bigedola Maskilin, Bigedula Maskilin and Agadol. When it comes to a matter of greatness, we begin with the greater people. Or Beklala, when it comes to a punishment or a cursing, Mischalim and Akot, we begin from the smallest. Right? Where do you know this from? Bigedula Maskilin and Agadol, Shnemar, Vayom Moshe Aaron Belazali Tama. So we began Moshe first with Aaron, then Elazar, then Isamar. So they first began with Aaron. Conversely, when it comes to Klala, Maskilim and Akotin. Right, because Betchil is Niskal Machash, Fiachach Niskal Chava, and then Lachach Niskal Adam. So you see, when it came to a klala, we began with the lowest, the Nachash. So Pashtus over here, this is a klala. The fact that there's no rain and you're putting the ashes on. So while we're beginning with the Choshe, we should begin with the regular people instead of the Av Bezdin. Says this is Ha Chashivus. In this case, putting on them first is the Chashivus. The army Lahoin Asan Chashivisu. You are chashiv to go ahead and ask Rachmanis for us ahead of anybody else. So since you're the most chashiv to ask to daven, so it's considered a dava of chashivas, and therefore you're beginning with gedula. They would put nice and baroshay nasi. You have bezdin, and so in other words, each and every person. They have bezdin, someone put on them. The nasi, someone put on them. But when it came to the individual person, they put on themselves. Fredimar Akasha, the Veroisha Nasi Bezdin din nami nishkalu inu v'ninchu b'rashayu ma'ishna the shakal inishachrina u'manachlahu. Why don't we let them also? Why don't we let the Nasi or the Bezdin, just like the regular Joe put the ashes on himself, so the Nasi Bezdin should put the ashes on themselves. So Amar Abba, Min Kesari said, Abba from Min Kesari, well, to say it's Rav Ada, there's nothing like being embarrassed by yourself or embarrassed by another. When someone goes ahead and puts it on you, it's a bigger embarrassment. Says Rashi on the Amid Aleph, first Rashi, there's more agmas nefesh when someone else puts it on you. And because of the chashivas, they're embarrassed by others. But a regular person is not embarrassed. It's enough themselves. Again, what we want to do is embarrass to go ahead as a result of embarrassment, maybe feel a little lower, daven better, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu see our embarrassment to answer us. So we want to maximize the embarrassment. So when it comes to a chashuv person, for another person to put him on it, that's a bit more embarrassing. When it comes to a regular Joe, a regular guy, there's no difference if you put it on yourself or what, if somebody else puts it on you.
The embarrassment is for itself. The embarrassment itself is for itself.
The heichem manachlu, where do you put it? So Amar Yitzchak b'makam tefillin. Right, when you got married, the Masada Kedushin put it right, and put it in the makam tefillin where you go ahead and put Shnemar. Lashum le'eveli tzion lases lehem per tachas efer. We said in tefillin is considered a pair. That's why you don't wear tefillin right on Tisha B'Av, because it's considered a crown, and therefore you put it in that place. Okay. Really? Okay. It's an opinion. It's not a fact. It's an opinion, right? Okay. So walking around with wesh on your head is embarrassing. Yeah.
Ash Windy.
Okay. You join. Yeah, Uncle Elliot. Okay, good. Mandy, you got to think of it. Mandy, you got to come up with a better question than that. Says the Gemara. Again, Mandy, I'm trying to teach you. When it comes to your feelings, you can't ask Hasha based upon your feelings. That's the feelings, your feelings, right? I mean, it's a feeling. Embarrassing is that a person to go ahead and it doesn't have to be embarrassed from another person. It's embarrassing to the individual, your own self, your own self. If you have a self chashivas, if you're walking around with ish on yourself, it's embarrassing for yourself. Forget about what you're saying embarrassing. In other words, if this person was a rooming alone, right, and he's putting ish on himself, he's still embarrassed. Still embarrassed because it's embarrassing. Yeah, a person is created with Salam Alikim. He shouldn't be schmutzadik. He shouldn't be right. Okay, I can't convince you. It's okay. No, it's okay. I spent too much time on this thread. Rechayiv teva, Mandy, Afrelach Chanukah. Rechayiv teva v'sakim. Yeah, you have too much time in your day, Mandy. Okay. Rechayiv teva v'sakim eifa kfura umaria simin. Okay, we're gonna go through different things now. Lama yoytzin rechayiv. Why did they go into the street? Why did they take the teva out into the street? We cried bitzina. We're in shul. We were crying in shul. We weren't answered. So let's go ahead and be mavasa ourselves. Let's embarrass ourselves. Let's belittle ourselves, right? In the street by bringing it out into the street. And as a result, that maybe it will be answered. We're going into Galus by bringing the Aron into the street. Let our Galus go ahead and be mechaper upon us. So it's either an engine of Bizui or an engine of Galus. What's the nafkamina between Rav Chia Barab and Reish Lakish's pshat? Ikabinayu is the Gali mi be kanishta le be kanishta. If you go from one base knesses to another, like Reish Lakish guys, you're in Galus, but you're not. It's not a Bizui because you're not b'fahesha. Like the time of b'fahesha, right? You would not be. Why do we take the Aron into the street? Shel Ir. We had a klit snua, and we are embarrassed because of Averis. Now, they didn't mention in the Mishnah that Stakim. They didn't mention that at all. It's derived that this seemed to be a minig that they did do. So why would they put on Sakim? That Rashi says to pshatim that sak comes from a behema, right? A sak comes from a behema, so therefore it's made from say a behema. He only says one thing. Why they bring burnt ashes agabe teva? We said last night, guys, ashes from a person, right? According to Tosfos, ashes from a person that they put on. We spoke at the Shumitz and Alacha that maybe it's a Gersa problem. That the Gersa was Etzim Aleph instead of Ayol. They thought it was what it was Adam. But again, or else some say it's an Adam. That it's permitted. Eifel Mikla Gabi Teva. Why did they put Eifel Mikla Gabi Teva? I'm Rabbi Yehuda and Pasi Kleimar. Imoy Anochi B'Tzara. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm with you. V'shlaka Shama B'chol Tzarasam Lo Tzar. And all that Tzaras Lo it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's in Tzar. Now I looked up the Rambam, guys, in Perik Dalid Halacha Aleph from Tainus. He says not only did they put the Afer on the Aron, they put the Afer on the Sefer Torah itself.
Wow.
Again, the Kesef Mishnah is Tamua. Where does it come from? Agamar doesn't say that. But again, he said the Rambam says that they mamish that the Bizui went ad kedei kach on the Torah itself. What?
Who would actually be the one to do that? The outbasing.
But why? It doesn't say that. Doesn't say that. It doesn't say. Well, I would say that. I would say. They said at Chazna Knesset, the Bagabai would do it. Anyway, Amr Zera Meiresh initially ki have chazina lo rabbanon the Yov Efa Mikla Gabi Teva said Rab Zera, and when they first saw the rabbanon when they put Efa Gabi Teva mizdazeli kula guf, my whole body was shuddering. I saw a pshat, and that's why the Rambam maybe gets it from here. If you put it on the teva, it's one thing. If you put it on the Sefer Torah, that would make your body shudder. So from Zera's reaction, maybe that's where the Rambam got his halacha from. That what did he put on the Sefer Torah itself? Again, the Kesef Mishnah, the nice Kalim there, they don't know where he gets it from. But he says, Mamish B'zel Lashon, he says, they Mamish put on the Sefer Torah.
That's why we take up the purpose on the Tisha B'Av, right? On the Kodesh, maybe that's
Aspisa, yeah. Says the Gemara Vaita. Why do we put Reish Kol Echad V'Echad? Pligi Bar Rav Levi Bar Chama Rav Chanina Chadam Ahari Anu Chashuvim V'Necha Ke'efer. I'm in front of you like ash. Chadama Kadei Sheyiska Lanu Afarish Lo Yitzchak. In order that you remember the Efer Yitzchak. My binayu could binayu offer stam. Guys, offer an Efer are synonymous, right? Offer and Efer are synonymous. So therefore, the one who says Efer could be dirt as well. By Avram Avinu says Nochi off of Efa when he's davening for what for Sidon. Conversely, if it says Efa Mikla, it's got to be what? It's got to be something. It has to be ish, something from burnt. It can't be offer. It can't be offer. That'd be the difference between the two. Now, it didn't say in our Mishnah that they went to the Beis Forest. There's no mention of that, but this is what they did do. Lomi Yotzin Beis Forest. Pligi Bar Rav Levi Bar Chama. Names are important. Pligi Bar Rav Levi Bar Chama Rav Chanina Chad Amar Hari Anu Chashuvim L'Fanecha Kimesim. We're chashuv like in front of you like Mesim. The Chad Amar Kadeshi Yavakshu Aleinu Mesim Rachamim. That the Mesim should ask for us Rachamim. My binayu it could binayu Kivrei Akum. What's the difference? Is the kavarim of an Akum. In other words, like the Mandiyama that they should daven for us, you can only go to a Jewish cemetery. Not Mandiyama that what? It's reminded that you're like dead, you can go to a Jewish cemetery also. Now you can't daven in the cemetery. Just means you go there to be reminded. Now, if you look at Tosfos, it says Yoitzel lebeis hakvaros. You can't noigim b'chol makam leilach lebeis hakvaros b'tes ba'av. Shari tes ba'av havi tainis tzibur k'moshe hayu oisin b'nei agashamim. Since it's tainis tzibur agashamim, that's the way that source of the minute to go to cemeteries on Tisha B'Av. Now there's Rabbi Kiva Egg over here, guys. If you look, there's the Rabbi Kiva Egg Tzeichins, and he goes ahead. He says, "Ayin Seif the Daf Lamed Daled places Diva Maskala voice side." Yes, the fascinating kasha. Let's listen to this kasha. Places there. It says you go to the cemetery in order to go ahead and ask the mason to go ahead and daven for you, right? That's what you're doing. That's what a Jewish cemetery you go, a Jewish cemetery not. Freg Tosfos. Then Toimar. So we learned Masech the Brachas. The Mason lo yadina and midi. The Mason don't know what's going on. Even the Avos don't know what's going on. So why do you go to a cemetery to go ahead and ask them to Vakish Rachamim? After all, they don't know what's going on. It's a kash that we do, right? We go to Kivei Avos, you go to all these places, right? V'yesh loymad al yedei tefila shezem mispalo ma'itian lehen shekach mispalo. Says Tosfos, they don't know stamazai, but if you dial the number, you dive into them, then they do know. Fascinating. Tosfos Daf Lamed Daled.
The Shamas wouldn't know about it, but if you dive into the Shama to intercede in your behalf, then they can intercede.
I'm just saying it. He's saying he didn't say in the Shama. He said whatever. He said they'll know about it. I don't know who's going to tell them. But again, it's no. I think you're saying. When you mavakish the tzaddik to ask him Hashem, we're not asking. We're asking the tzaddik himself. We're going to the kfarim of the Avos to mavakish rachamim. So again, it's once we dial him up, It's very, very interesting. Okay, so it's a good place just to know. Lamed Daled in Saita, Lamed Daled Lamed Beis. Now we said Rab Levi Bar Chama and Rab Chanina, one said this, one said this. So the next piece of Gemara has nothing to do with our Inyan. The whole reason we bring it in is because this is a conversation that took place between Rab Levi, Machloikis that took place between Rab Levi Bar Chama and Rab Chanina. One said one thing, one said the other thing. My Hara Maria. Now we all know Hara Maria. We think Hara Maria is the Pashid is the Harabayas, right? That's why Avram went to Hara Maria to bring Yitzchak as a carbon. Rashi brings an opinion that it's Har Sinai. So Pligi bar Rav Levi bar Chama Rav Chanina. Chadam ahar sheyetzim mimenu hayra Yisrael. It's the hard lashon Maria's lashon of Mayra or hayra teaching. The Lishkas Hagazis was up there, and therefore hayra went to Klal Yisrael. If it was Har Sinai, clearly hayra went to Klal Yisrael. The Chadam ahar sheyetzim mimenu mayra levi kechavim. It's the har where fear went out to every kechavim. You had a Beis Hamikdash and Kodesh Baruch Hu was in our midst, and it caused the goyim to be scared. If it's Har Sinai, certainly a tremendous fear went out to the goyim. The Mishnah said the zaking among them would say direk kavushin. The Bryce elaborates. If there's an elder person, he would daven. V'im lav oim chacham. V'im lav oim adam shel tzura, a man of stature, of height. It's very good. It's mashma that the zaken is not a chacham. Someone by a hachikam. No. Im yeh zaken v'hu chacham, oim zaken v'hu chacham. V'im lav, but he's not a zaken. It's just a chacham, oim a chacham. V'im lav, oim adam shel tzura, a man of stature. Why would they say? Achenu loy sak v'tainis gormim. This is what they learned from Ninveh. It's not the sackcloth and the tainis that cause. El tshuva meisim toivim gormim. It's tshuva meisim toivim that would cause the rains to come. Shekem matzinu b'anshe Ninveh. We find by anshe Ninveh shloi nema behem vayar lekim es sakam es tanisam. That's the Hakadosh Baruch Hu saw their sackcloth and their fists. El vayar lekim es masayim. He shavu mi darch mara. Hashem saw their what they did tshuva and they left their evil ways. Now the pasuk describes some of the tshuva of Ninveh. It says vayiskasu sakim ha'adam va'behema. It says, and they covered sakim of adam and behema. Mayaviyavdei. So asra habehema l'chudei. They put the animal on one side and the vlad on the other side of the animal. If you don't have rachmanas on us, we won't have rachmanas on them. The Yikru el Elohim b'chaska. What do you mean? The Adam the Kodesh Baruch b'chaska. Mayama. What do they say b'chaska? The men of Ninveh said Rebbeinu Shleilam. Olav shein olav. You have a person who is olav. He's chashiv, not chashiv. Tzaddik for Russia. Me netchum ifnei me. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're the most chashiv of all. So of course you should go ahead and listen to about our beseeching. They went ahead and they did tshuva from their evil ways and from their stolen things that were among them. What does it mean the chametz that was in their hands? Even if they stole a beam, ubanu bebira, and was built into a palace. They knocked down the bira, kula umaksa meiresh lebola. We're gonna have get to Nezikin. We're gonna have the takonis hashavim, takonis meiresh, that you can pay money because no person's not gonna go ahead and break his house to give it. But they broke their house to give it back. A person who has his hands on avera and he's misvada, he goes ahead and does vidu. However, but he doesn't stop his evil ways. What's he similar to? A person who's holding onto a sheretz. They also like to feel this is the famous guys. Right? What's it going to do? However, Miyad also like to feel it. In the minimal amount of Abayim Sa does the job. In other words, if he has the shirts and you can go into the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, the Bering Sea, it doesn't make a difference. 40 Sa, no, shirts, boom. Shnemar umoide va'oisev Yerucham, a person who mitzvahs averis, and he forsakes them, Yerucham on him, they'll be Meruchim, Rachmanis. The Oimed says, Nisi Levavenu al Kapayim el Hashemayim, we put not our hearts, but our heart, our Levavenu, our minds, our hearts to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not our hands. Amdu b'tfilah maridin l'fnei ateva zaken. Tan Rabbanan. Amdu b'tfilah after sheyesh some zaken v'chacham ein maridin l'fnei ateva el adam aragel. In other words, given a choice of a zaken or chacham or a person who is shaga b'fiv, you go to the adam that's ragel. You go to the person that's shaga b'fiv. Right? Rabbi Yehuda Omer mitupel ve'ein loy, young children. It says, the Mishnah says, a person who's davening. This is the criteria for what? For the Bal Tefillah. Young children, he doesn't know what to feed them. And he has what? He's mischavim more with tefillas kashamim because he has a field. He has a field. Since he has a field, he's going to daven. He needs it. The guy is his business inside, but the guy's outside. His house should be empty, meaning the Gemara is going to ask, that's the same thing as Einloi, right? That doesn't have what to feed his kids. Uparku no, we're going to see that his youth, even in his youth, he was okay. Ushval berech, right? Ushval berech, he's what is an anav. Umerutza la'am, people like him. V'yeshlein imu, he's got a sweet melody. V'koil yorev in a pleasant voice. Ubaki likreis b'ternavim ksuvim. U'lashanis b'medrish b'alachas. Uba'godais, people that aren't goyris, a lot of people. But we want the psukim to be clear in this matter. Why do we have to know? Why does he have to be an expert in Allah and Agadais? Who they look at? They looked at Rabbi Yitzchak Barami that he would fit the bill. Fred the Gemara, He's got young children, but he doesn't know what to feed them. His house is empty, it's poor. So the chayra, it's redundant. And it's going, no. When it says Beisei Reikom, it means his house is raked from an Aveira, but in a Chinami, it could have, it doesn't, that he's poor is because it says the Tubal Ve'enlai. Uparkuna, what did it mean, Parkuna? Rabbi is Yotza, Shema Bialdusa. This guy, even in his, he never went off the derech. He always was squeaky clean. The guy was, Shket about Tefillah, who was always a good guy. Says, always served that Kodesh Baruch Hu, right? Says the Gemara Vaita. Amar Abaya, Zeshlo Yatza Shem Rabbi Yaldusa. Haisali Nachlasi, a pasuk in Yirmiyah. Haisali Nachlasi, Ke Aryeh Biyar, like a lion in the forest. Nasna Alai Bekoila Al Kain Sinesia. So therefore, she gave her voice against me. Therefore, I have hated her. What does that mean? My Nasna Alai Bekoila Amar Mazutra Bartuvia Amarab. Amar Vimile Amarav Chama Bar Chama Amarabi Elazar Zeshliach Tziba Shaloika Hagen. Such Shliach Tziba goes down to the teva who doesn't fit the criteria. That's a tefillah, that's nesia that a Kadosh Baruch Hu does not like. Okay, so the rest of the daf, guys, is going to be. We went through the Mishnah. If you remember, we said Zecharinis with Shayfos, and then we said 4 parshas of the Tehillim. Like Rabbi Yehuda, you deleted the Zecharinis for Shayfos, and you said 2 other parshas of the Tehillim, and each one had a chasima. We said that we ended up with the number 7, yet they only went ahead and added 6. So what did we say yesterday? That Ritzei, we have an elongated Ritzei that usually only in Gal Yisrael, we have an elongated Ritzei with a different with a long chasima. So that's the number 1. And therefore the other 6 is really 7. We're going it. So really, there's only taking out the Valam Alshinim, there's only 18 brachas Shemon Esrei. We're adding 6, we're adding Zecharinis, Shayfos, and 4 psukim of Tehillim, each one with their own chasima. And it says 7 doesn't mean 7. It means the first one is Ritzei. That's the one we're saying longer. We're gonna not. I keep going to say Re'ei, not Ritzei, Re'ei, because then we say these brachas between Re'ei and Rifa'enu. Okay, so now, so with that introduction, guys, I'm very, very repetitious stuff. Says the Gemara. Hani sheish shiva havin, the 7 kidnan ala shviyasu ha'im baruch merachim ala oretz. My shvius la rucha. It's the 7th month to re'ei. Re'ei, we're going ahead and saying long. Look at Rashi, guys. Shvius la rucha, the second thin line. Shvius lo oisei bracha. It's the 7th of that bracha shehiskal harichba that we began elongating. For oisei einim in atosefes, but that bracha of re'ei is not from the additional ones for the tinus. Elam yudches brachasi is from the original 18. Kidetanya begal Yisrael hu ma'irich. That is ma'irich and gar Yisrael. So in other words, you're going to say the normal 3, 4, 5. You're going to get to Re'ei. When you get to Re'ei, you're going to say a longer addition, and then plus 6. Back inside. Kedetanya. The Gal Yisrael and the brach of Gal Yisrael, which is Re'ei. Ma'irich, you ma'irich u'b'choisama. Why would you say the choisama? Again, this is the brach of Gal Yisrael. Mishanas Avram Hamaria, the one who answered Avram Hamaria, who yana eschem v'yishma b'kol tzach haschem. Hayom hazeh. Baruch Gal Yisrael. Ve'inoim nachrav amen. The chazak hanes zoymer lehem. Tiku b'nei Aaron Tiku, he would say Tiku b'nei Aaron Tiku. The Chayzavoim and Mishanas Avasav Al Yamsuf. Now this is going to be Zecharinis, guys. The Chayzavoim and Mishanas Avasen Al Yamsuf, who Ya'anes Chem v'Yishma b'Kol Tza'astem Hayom Hazeh Baruch Zoicher Anishkachos. Again, since it's Zecharinis, you say Baruch Zoicher Anishkachos. Vein Oinim Achrav Amen. B'Chazan Kles Leima Lehem Horiu b'nei Aaron Horiu. So guys, the first one is Tiku, the second one is Horiu. So there's Machloikis in the Rishonim. Does this mean they blew a tekiah trua tekiah? Or they blew a trua tekiah trua, or they only blew 1. Tiku they blew 1 tekiah, or trua they blew 1 trua. So that seems to be machlokes about Rishonim. They would go ahead and they would go ahead and take turns. When this is begvulim, they didn't go ahead and they didn't answer Amin b'migdash. Kumo birchos Hashem Elokechem min ha'olam v'ad ha'olam v'yivarchu shem kevoidcha u'meroimim al kol bracha u'tehila yachal al kol brachas kulan lo yitehel tehila achas. I might think the same time alema u'meroimim al kol bracha u'tehila al kol bracha tein lo tehila. I know each bracha give it Tehillah. So in other words, so they didn't say Amen b'mikdash. They say Baruch Shem Kol Machzor Bed. So why didn't they say Amen b'mikdash? We spoke this out once upon a time. So go if you go to your phones, I posted something. I posted something to your phones. It's a Marsha. It's a Marsha. I'm gonna post it up here, guys. I assume you can see this, right? Guys, you can see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Guys, you have it? Listen to this cheshbon. Minayin shein oynim omen b'migdash shenemar lefi das hamekubalim milas omen shehu kiyim b'ha'amonas davar kel melech neman, which is a fulfillment of belief in something. Hu mechabe u'mitzaref shem hakriv aksiv. It connects and puts together the way we pronounce it and the way it's written. Now, the way it's written, guys, is Yud Kei Vav Kei, but we pronounce it Adnos. We pronounce it Aleph Nun Yud. If you do the math, the Hainu Shem Aleph Nun Yud v'Shem Avaya, the Mispar Tzadik Aleph, guys, that Yud Kei Vav Kei is 26, and Aleph Nun Yud is 65. 65 and 26 is 91. Guys, Amen is 91. Amen is 91. What's Pshat? You're supposed to be Mechavein when you say the shame. You're supposed to be Mechavein for both. You're supposed to be Mechavein for the name way, the way it's written, and you're supposed to be Mechavein the way you pronounce it. Generally, we're only Mechavein the way you pronounce it, right? Because the way it's written is, we don't think about that way, yes? So by answering Amen, what are we doing? We're being mitzvah the two together. Guys in the Beis HaMikdash, they didn't say Adnos. They said Yud Kei Vav Kei. And Mela, therefore, Ein Ein Ram Mikdash. That Geschmack? I think we said this once upon a time. I think we said this once upon a time. Therefore, we don't say Amen b'Mikdash, guys. So therefore, because it's not necessary. You're not mitzvah the shame. You're not mitzvah the shame. You don't say Amen b'Mikdash. Very, very Geschmack. Okay, that's back by us. Where it gets why 3 lines down. Baruch Hashem Elokim Elokei Yisrael Min Olam V'Ad Olam. They had a long bracha. Baruch Kol Yisrael. Ve'in Oinam Acharav Baruch Shem Kavod Machasol Ilam V'Ed. V'chazna Knesses Oimer Lehem Tiku HaKahanim B'nei Aaron Tiku V'Choyze V'Oimer Mishana Es Avram Bahar Maria Huyana Eschem V'Yishma B'Kol Tzaschem Hayom Hazeh Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael Zoich HaNishkachos. Ve'in Oinam Acharav Baruch Shem Kavod Machasol Ilam V'Ed. So now we're just going over what they did in the Beis HaMikdash. V'chazna Knesses Oimer Lehem Hariel Akoinim Bnei Aaron Hariel Beka Trua. V'chem Kol Bracha B'Achasam V'Tiku B'Achasam Hariel. So we just went through what he did in the Medina, and we just threw what he did in Beis HaMikdash. At Shegoyim is cool until they finished the whole thing. The Kachan Hinig Rav Chalafta B'Tzipurei Rav Chananya Ben Tzradim B'Sakine. Those were their hometowns. That to go ahead, they would say Baruch Shem Kavod Machzor Yom Bet. Ukeshavah double thing. Chacham Mamu Lahoyin Noim Ken El B'Shai Mizrach B'Har Abayis. This time we Kedetanya. I'm lefneim esem Rabbi Brochish Shman Esrei Shebchol Yom. U'Moisav Leim Oid Sheish. V'Oisin Sheish Heichen Amin. Ben Goyel Roifei. You put it between the bracha of Goy Yisrael Re'ei and Roifei Cholei Yisrael. U'Marich B'Geula, and you be Marich B'Geula by make long the bracha of Vad of Re'ei. V'Hinoim Achrav Amin. I'll call bracha. The Kacha Yinoigim B'Gvulin Av Migdash Hayom Baruch Hashem Elkei Yisrael Min Olam Ad Olam. So the bracha was a longer bracha, and the Chasima was the Baruch Goyel, and the Chasima was different. Amen. B'chol kach lamot v'shein amen b'migdash u'menayin shein amen b'migdash shenemar kuma birchas Hashem elkeichem min ha'olam v'ad ha'olam yivaruch Hashem kevoidcha b'mroim al kol bracha tehila al kol bracha bracha tein loy tehila. Tanrabanan al yishon su'ayim baruch Hashem elkei Yisrael min ha'olam v'ad ha'olam baruch Goy Yisrael ve'in oyin machra baruch Hashem kavod machzor li'olam v'ed v'chazan knesses oimer tiku kahanim tiku v'chayzim oimer mishon es Avram Bahar Maria hu yaneh eschem v'yishma b'kol tza'asnem hayom hazeh. The Shni is a chroinus. Oimer Baruch Kei Yisrael in Olam V'Ad Olam Baruch Soicha Nishkachas. Ve'inoin Machra Baruch Shem Kavod Machzor Yom Bed. V'chazak Knesses Oimer Hariu Ben Akran Maria blow it Shua. Oimer Mishon Es Avasen Al Yamsuf Hu Yana Eschem V'Yishma B'Kol Tza'askem Hayom Hazeh Ve'Marian V'Toikim Marian V'Chem B'Chol Bracha Bracha V'Achas Oimer Tiku V'Achas Omer Hariu. At Shigmas Bracha Skulam V'Chein Hinig V'Chalafte B'Tzihur Rav Chanina B'Tzradim B'Sakini K'Shebadav V'Yitzacham Mama V'Hoyinoigim Kein El B'Shai Mizrach B'Arabayis to go ahead and say Amen or Lo Sheifa. Okay, we'll stop over. Everyone, a Freilich and Chanukah to all.
Thank you for Hanukkah.